Welcome to the castle, everybody. This is Nightsaber Z42, and we're back with another world building vlog for future fantasy. This whole setting that I'm creating to hopefully play someday that kind of meshes high fantasy with hard science fiction. So today we're actually going to be talking about magic and psionics a little bit, and this is actually really the kind of like the bridge that's going to bring us from the first phase of the whole framework that we've been working on as kind of detailed in collaborative world building for writers and gamers. And we're going to be start thinking about the structures and the substructures within our setting. And I think one of the more important features of our setting is magic and psionics and how they all kind of work together. So for magic, it's kind of very easy. We're actually going to be taking some concepts from Dungeons and Dragons, specifically Faerun, and incorporating them into our setting. So magic is actually going to be a type of energy that's accessed from another dimension, which we'll call the weave, which is how they explain it in Dungeons and Dragons. So a person can access magic by tapping into that reserve within the weave. So think of it like this: our whole plane of existence is the material plane, we'll just say, although we'll just call it the material existence. So we're at the very center. And then when somebody tries to access magic, there's going to be an outer portion. So if you think about the earth, it's going to be like the crust of the earth in a way, and that's going to be where the weave is. And so all of the magical energy, or the energy rather, is going to be there. It's going to be harnessed through there. So it should be worth mentioning that only species or individuals who have a clear connectedness to the universe or with nature are able to access the weave. So that means humans can't really access that. And it actually kind of explains why we as people in reality have not been able to really use magic, because we don't have access to it. It's just kind of a way of explaining or mixing a little bit of realism with, hard science fiction and high fantasy. So that's my explanation for it. We can't access magic because we're kind of closed off to that extra dimension. So what about divine magic? Because divine magic in Dungeons and Dragons terms is when a god or a goddess or some sort of other pantheon gives a specific individual access to magic. So a person works through the works of their pantheon to access magic. So for this one, I was rather thinking that there would be another dimension outside of the weave, or that's accessed through the weave. So in order to actually access divine magic, you would actually have to be able to access the weave, or at least navigate through the weave. So individuals who have access to magic, so like elves, dwarves, and gnomes, they would be able to access the high weave, or I don't even know what I've called it. I called it the cosmic breach, but I don't even know if I'm gonna term it that just quite yet. But this would be for individuals who have a strong belief in something, because the whole premise of this would be that you're going to have cosmic beings, which are going to be the gods and goddesses of the pantheon, that actually reside in that cosmic breach, or that outer layer where the divine magic is going to be located. So this kind of makes a whole lot of sense when you think about warlocks, where they have a patron that gives them access to magic and stuff like that. It kind of works the same way in a way. This kind of reminds me of old style Dungeons and Dragons, where you do something to piss off your god or goddess, you no longer have access to magic. So this would be kind of along the similar lines, where a creature establishes a connection to a cosmic being, which grants them the use of powers and stuff like that. Those are two different types of magic. What about psionics? Psionics is the manipulation of the material plane, I guess, or the material energies, using sheer willpower. And this is usually done through some sort of a mutation within a person. And so the scientists have actually managed to harness that psionic or that power and enhance it through like some sort of a technology, kind of like biotic amp from Mass Effect. Think of it like that, where people were exposed to, like, I think ESO radiation, and they developed Mass Effect powers or biotic powers, and that's amplified through the biotic amplifier. It kind of works similar here. And I was reading through Stars Without Numbers, and they kind of explain psionics in a similar fashion, where people were exposed to like metadimensional energies, which is, just think of like hyperspace. There's like radiation from hyperspace and stuff like that, and that caused a mutation within certain individuals. And it was pretty extreme, or at least in this setting, because people usually, once it manifested, they only have a short lifespan. Like, it would eventually kill them. That's just putting it bluntly. But so in the future fantasy setting, it's kind of going to be something a little bit similar. There was a group that was along the lines of Cerberus from Mass Effect. I'm calling them Leviathan just for the sake of, having a different name, but Cerberus is a pretty cool name. So Leviathan worked on Pluto Base back when they were still a secret organization, and taking all these scientists and doing a whole bunch of secret experiments. And one of the experiments that they conducted were on individuals with quote-unquote psychic powers. And so they managed to actually manifest that through horrific experiments. And, just kind of like Nazi Germany, these experiments actually kind of brought forth some meaningful, I don't want to say that, but like they actually brought some scientific breakthroughs in certain areas. And, the psionic breakthroughs were definitely one of those. So there were people all over humanity that started developing these powers, and now there's a way to actually help them and even harness that. So psionic people actually do go through a rigorous training. They go through a very rigorous military training, like kind of like a Starship Troopers in a way. The psychic people, they join the military and they have to go through that whole process. So it's something similar, and they are very sought after because they're rare, and they can do these incredible things that are kind of like magic, but not magic. It's just a manipulation of material energies. So basically what's around is what you can use. So think of it that way. So there's actually two resources that I'm going to look into, and they are both available on the DM's Guild. And they are two sources about psionics. And so they're for 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons. And as I was developing this, magic and divine magic and psionics, my mind always kept coming back to, this would work fairly well with Dungeons and Dragons, or at least 5th edition, because we can take a setting like Esper Genesis and take some of the classes in that and just call them, refer to them as psionics, and then take the magical classes in Dungeons and Dragons, and those would be for, the beings that can, or the creatures that can access magic, so elves, gnomes, dwarves, and whatever else we decide to make into a magical class. So that would be the easiest way to go about the whole process, and I'm still going to look into that. And I'll also definitely still be comparing with Stars Without Numbers, because I do like the whole old style role-playing aspect that this game brings, but I really don't like character creation for this. Or rather, I don't like the classes, and I don't like the fact that it's relegated to humans. You can make aliens, but it just doesn't feel the same. It's all very similar. There's no diversity with anything in this book. It's a great setting, but in terms of individualism, like with classes and races, there's no diversity, and that's such a shame. But then again, if there were some of that, this book would be like twice as big, and it's already big enough as it is. So that's where we're at in this whole process. So we're actually starting to think about structures and substructures. So in the next video, I hope to have some of the government structures kind of start putting them into place, and then we'll start moving on from there. And I'm already getting the whole wiki, or the World Anvil pages set up, although there's no content on them. It's just something to keep organized, but that's kind of where I'm at in the whole process. And we'll start introducing new races as I start fleshing out what I have for now. And that's pretty much the roadmap for this point on until we finish structures and substructures, and then we'll start filling out the catalog. So thank you guys so much for watching. Feel free to leave a comment down below. Give this video a huge thumbs up to support this series, and subscribe if you would like to see more. I will see you guys in the next video.